You know, there have been about 113 justices throughout our entire history on the Supreme Court. That's it. 113. Kavanaugh's confirmed that'll be 114. Since the Constitution was ratified. It's not a lot. As you know, they serve for life. Good behavior, but that's turned out to be life. So what do you do if you're in my position? You love the President of the United States. You think he's doing a hell of a job. The appointment of Neil Gorsuch was outstanding. You certainly don't want to sabotage what he's trying to do to the courts, but you do have some questions about his latest nominee. So do we ask the questions or do we sit on our hands? Even more, do we cheer on the individual, as virtually every radio host has done, virtually every TV host has done, because they don't want to offend many of you? I don't swing that way. I am not interested in sabotaging Mr. Kavanaugh. I'm interested in knowing more about Mr. Kavanaugh, not from his former law clerks, not from senators who are commenting now without having the benefit of an actual hearing, not from differing views of professors. And, you know, funny thing is, I've been watching TV much of the day and listening to radio part of the day, and none of them really get into the decisions of Kavanaugh. They talk about him writing 300 decisions and on and on and on, and they're basically reading talking points that have been provided to them. And by the way, as an aside, we're now celebrating Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Kennedy is a disaster, was a disaster. He had no judicial philosophy whatsoever. Certainly wasn't a constitutionalist. It was really a real hit and miss with the guy. He promoted his personal policy preferences. When he was good, he was good. When he was bad, he was bad. But I got to thinking about this, and we're going to get into something I think that's going to fascinate you. I really do. I was speaking to a friend of mine this morning. You would know who it is, but I was speaking to a friend of mine this morning. And he said to me, all these picks are risky. You never know. And I got to thinking, and I said, that's not correct. When you pick an individual who's part of the gold standard, that pick is not risky. Scalia was not a risky pick. Rehnquist was not a risky pick. Clarence Thomas was not a risky pick. Sam Alito was not a risky pick. Gorsuch was not a risky pick, and a handful of others, and I do mean handful. We knew in advance what we were getting. Souter was a risky pick because Bush 41 wanted a stealth candidate. Kennedy was a risky pick because he was the third pick by Reagan, Bork and Ginsburg having been shot down. Harry Blackmun was a risky pick. He was the third pick of Nixon, his other two having been shot down. Sandra Day O'Connor was a risky pick. Ronald Reagan, unfortunately, decided he wanted a woman on the court, and that was the focus. There were not a lot of women on the court back then. And Barry Goldwater proposed an appellate state court, were not very well known, in Sandra Day O'Connor. John Paul Stevens was chosen by Gerald Ford. There was not a lot known about John Paul Stevens. And I can go on and on. These were risky picks. And they were risky, and they turned out to be big problems. Now, they will tell you, they, being those with the common wisdom, we had to go for Souter because Bush 41 couldn't get anybody else through. We had to go with Kennedy because we already went with two originalists. We were shot down. We had to go with Blackmun. We had to go with O'Connor. We had to go with Stevens. You know, that's the politics. We only had this many votes. The Democrats controlled that. And we got them. And in most instances, and for much of the time, the nation has suffered as a result. There was never any doubt from me about Gorsuch. Was there any doubt from you? That man had an impeccable record. Now, we're being told that Kavanaugh has an impeccable record. I hope he turns out to be the next Scalia, the next Clarence Thomas, or whomever. I really do. And he may well. I'm not saying that he should be shot down in any respect. So please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. What I am saying is this Senate hearing to confirm a nominee or not. It's not just a spectacle for the left where they get to go on like insane people screaming about their agenda, how America's going to come to an end, how the health of women is going to suffer, and on and on and on. They do their clown act, and that's what they'll do. But we have a responsibility, too, as citizens. We have children and grandchildren, and they're going to have to live under this. So what is this? I don't care what some writers at National Review and the Wall Street Journal have to say. If they're wrong, the consequences for the country are severe. So we have to use our own brains, use our own eyes, listen to our own conscience to make our decisions. The nomination's been made. When I say make our decisions, that is whether or not you like this choice or not. It's a risky pick. And hopefully, it'll be one of those rare times where a risky pick turns out great. And you won't know in the first year or second year should he be confirmed. It'll take 3, 4, 5 years, and then you'll know. That's what it took Kennedy to lurch. That's what it took O'Connor to lurch. That's what it took Blackmun to lurch when he was handed his first big case called Roe v. Wade. So who knows? He's not the gold standard. But we'll see. There are legitimate questions about any public official, about any institution of government. We're the people. This is how it's supposed to work. We're not just observers. We can ask questions. The left is insane. They want their Politburo. I get all that. But we are constitutionalists, and we get to ask questions, too.